welcome back to the Virginia School of Traditional Arts. Today we're going to be making something pretty unique. I made this for the gentleman that's with the Canon the last time, last fall, and he actually brought me the screw part. He had purchased that from somebody, but it was the wrong size, so we adjusted that screw part down and we mounted it on this stick for him. And so he's brought me a similar stick, and we're going to make the second portion of his Canon set. And on one end of this stick it'll be a sponge and to wet the Canon barrel down, and on the other end we're going to turn him a oak plunger so we can ram I guess, oak end that's fat and a sponge end that's fat on the same stick. And so that's his ram and his sponge on the same stick. We're going to make them the same length approximately as this screw. This is what you spin in there, and they use tin foil powder charges. It's got tin foil wrapped around it so it's the right size powder. And this is what goes in there and tears that tin foil out, and then the sponge goes in wet, and then they put a new tin foil charge in, and they use the other end, what we'll work on, the ram part, and they mash it down into the Canon tight. And we're also going to make him a charge mold, for a better word, and so we're going to do all three of those things for him. First step on our stick here is our sponge, and he's chosen to use a sponge that you buy at the it's just a roller basically for painting, and that's what he's wanting to use. And so our stick here on one end is tapered, but not quite enough to let our sponge stick on there, and we want this to stick on there fairly tight, so that it doesn't come off inside the Canon barrel. That would be bad. The other thing is, and I don't think it will because this is way smaller than the Canon's diameter, inside diameter, but we're going to make this snug on this pole as best I can, and we may even go through the trouble of putting them in some kind of a tack or a screw so we're certain it's not going to pull off inside the Canon, but we'll see how good a fit we can make. And what I'm going to do is I've attached this, just drilled a hole in the end of this and put a screw in it, and then bit the screw with my drill, and we're trying to get this thing as straight as we possibly can, and we're going to switch you around and we're going to put it up here on the sander, and we're going to just sand it down. That goes a little bit at a time. I don't have any other way to spin it really. It'd be nice to chuck it up in the lathe, but my lathe's not that long, and I just don't have what I need to put it in a lathe. So we're gonna do it crudely, but we'll do it as good as we can. So that's close enough. Close enough. So we can get it on and off. And we're not quite to the end. We might do a little bit more. Another little bit. I wanted to save some down here in case it got too small. So we're good up to that point, so we'll try to stay on to that. Do another couple of inches. I think that will do for that end. Alright, to make our plunger end and our sponge end similar looking, I I'm going to make them about the same length. So I've cut a block of oak here, and we're going to put it in our, chuck it up in our lathe, and we'll use this end to make our ram, and then this end just going to be scrapped to hold the lathe will hold. And so we'll start by drilling a hole in this. Well, we'll start by making this ram, and then we'll drill a hole in it, maybe halfway or so, and that'll pretty much be it. We'll round off the both ends just slightly. This end probably leave almost square, be my opinion, almost square, and then just make it round. I think that'll do us. Alright, put a fresh edge on this thing. Let's see what we can get done. See if it's bumping. It's not round yet. When it bumps still, it's not quite round. We're round down here on this end, so we're gonna take it easy on that end. And see, we can tell that we're not centered very well by this big flat place. We'll see if we got enough of this to do. We'll try her. Alright, we did a couple light passes. We're going to take some measurements now. I'm going to measure the inside of the cannon and do some measurements on this now that we've got it round. Make sure that we're operating in the same field here. Outside calipers. This is the smallest part here. There we go. That's about right. That's the smallest part. As we come this way, it's a little bigger. Y'all can see that. I'll get my arm out the way. Right here at this end, it'll go through. But we can keep it pretty close to that. So we're going to measure the cannon now. Alright, just what I did was I took this end of my calipers and stuck it in the cannon, opened it up as wide as it would go, tried it a couple places, and locked it down. The exact number does not matter whatsoever. You just got to get it the right size. So we're going to look at compared to our outside caliper, we still got a little bit of room to move. So we got to come down a little bit farther. And first thing I'm going to try to do is get this to go on all the way down. And then we'll probably just end up using a skew or something, sandpaper even, to just take it down that last little bit so that it's perfectly cylindrical and all the way down. So we'll lay that to the side for now. Okay. And we'll try that. Another little light pass. We're getting it smooth and pretty round. I mean, it's all the way around, but it's pretty smooth now too. Try that again. Just sneaking up on it. Okay, we're getting there. Alright, we're just going to mark our length again, what we wanting. Take our parting tool here, and we're just going to cut right on that line, we hope anyway. Still just a smidge off. Just a smidge off. Now she'll go through all the way down. At this point, I think I'm going to switch over to just some sandpaper on a flat piece of something and make this as flat as I can and as parallel as I can, and just sand it down. And once we get it good and smooth, we'll measure it again and make sure it's going to go in the cannon. This is our actual cannon measurement, and it won't go just yet. But I think some sanding probably, we're almost in sanding range there, I'm gonna say. So we're gonna do a little sanding, and then we'll remove this and we'll put us a chuck in here, a Jacob's chuck, and we'll drill the hole in about halfway, I'm thinking. So that's feeling pretty good. It's a little bit narrower down here at the end, but I think that'll do. I think we're in good shape as far as size. We're going to clean this up good, and then we're going to switch over and put our drill bit in this thing. So we're going to run some sandpaper on this, several grits, and get it as smooth and clean looking as we can. Alright, going to do some grits of sandpaper. This one is 120. We just got done with 80. I spec it laid up a little bit. This don't take long. And I've made this a little bit smaller than what the actual cannon bore is. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. Not quite 1/8. 3/32 or something. Not quite 1/8 of an inch, because this is probably going to get wet at some point and it will swell, and you'll have to sand it down again. And it's basically the same size all the way across. This end is just ever so slightly fatter, but that's going to be the plunging end, and that's where we want the fatness to be. Alright, now that we got our sanding pretty much done, we'll get most of the grooves out of it. We're going to put us a drill bit in that's going to be the same size as our stick. Alright, I got a Jacob's chuck. I've got a Forstner bit chucked up in it. I'm going to push it up here. Lock it down. And I'm basically going to go as deep as this will allow me. So one more pass should get me that way. Save me a lot of turning. center back in. We'll push it over here. Tighten it. Something here, and just chamfer this corner just a little bit. Just not a whole lot, but just a little bit. Try to get it where it's not such a sharp gizmo. And just a little file on there, it might do just as good. And take our parting tool. Alright, that's feeling pretty good. Now, next step is getting our handle to fit on here. Our handle, we drilled the hole at 3/4. We had 3/4 or 7/8. That's the two drill bits I had. 3/4 was too small, 7/8 was too big. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same little trick we did to make the roller work. We're going to do that to make this part work. So what we're going to do next is just cut this off so we can take it with us. A few minutes of searching, I found my pieces again. That's the way my life works. We have run this on the sander just the same way we did when we did this end, just to make it a little bit smaller. We got this to fit on here. It's just a hair loose. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat this down with glue. If you ever get a peg that's too loose, you can always put your couple coats of glue on it, and that swells it up basically. And then you can glue it in here, and it's basically just glue on glue at that point. And all right, so we got the screw out. This end holds this much better fit than this end, but we'll make this one work. And we get both of them together, and we lay them up here side by side. Try not to get that sponge too dirty. And we are dead on the same length, which is what he was wanting. He was wanting the same length. And so we're pretty close to the same length. I'm probably going to take these off and just do a little hand sanding on both of these little transitions here. And then spray it. I might hit this with some sandpaper. This is kind of rough feeling. Hit this with some sandpaper and spray that again with some clear. And I'm going to call that one close to done. Like I said, we will put some coats of glue on this to tighten this seam up here, and we will peg this. Alright, we've got our ram and our sponge fixed on our stick here. And this is our original piece that we did earlier last fall for the gentleman that owns the Canon. And all I did this time was I sanded this stick up here. This is called a screw, and this sanded stick up and put some clear on it for him. But we used it for length to judge our length for this other one. He wanted the same length, so we did that for him. And I didn't film this, or battery ran out or something ran out and it wasn't on the film. I told you I was going to drill a hole in this and pin this. There we go. So I can push the pin out and I can remove this end and put the pin back in if I need to. And the reason I did that is I'm not 100% sure how loose this part's supposed to be in the Canon. It's not tight in the Canon right now, but it's not, you know, sloppy loose by any means. And I wasn't sure how he preferred that. And so I made this in so we could take it back off if we needed to. And that little pin is made out of brass. It's nothing but a brazen rod. If you ever done any brazing, that's good brass to use for pins and such. I have put some poly on this, sanded this up real good, sanding this stick up too as well, and put some new poly on it. I also was concerned with this sponge coming off inside of his cannon, and so I drilled a hole in the end of the stick and I put a screw in here. It could be any kind of screw, but I chose a screw that has a hex head on it. This is actually a screw, and it has a little washer on it that is used to put down tin on a building, and so I thought that would probably be a good choice. And so he can change out this sponge. You can buy a new one of these if this gets dirty or looks bad or what have you. Also, this sponge doesn't come all the way to the, if you can imagine the end of the cannon here, it doesn't, the fluffy part doesn't come all the way to the end. And it's a piece of plastic here at the very end, so I was trying to protect that plastic, so I used a metal screw that sticks out just slightly. But he can also take this screw off, I'm going to suggest to him, and maybe shred him up some cloth, old pair of jeans or a t-shirt or something, and wad it up here and put it on this end and put the screw back on, and then that would get the very end of his cannon wet. The reason they use this is so that it doesn't blow up when they put the new powder in there. If you shoot the cannon, it's debris and fire and sparks and all kind of stuff left in there. So they wet this down and run it in there and get the whole cannon barrel wet. And then they put their powder charge in there. And we have a video of me showing you how I made a powder charge mold. So make sure you check that one out. And then they switch this around after it's wet. Put your powder charge in there, and that's what this part's for, is you ram it down in there and you make that powder fit tight into the barrel. So anyhow, if you like this, thanks for watching, and if you got some value out of this, hit that like and subscribe button for us, and we'll catch you on the next one.